Seriously though, like my face is on fire. I feel it in my eyeballs.
It looks like it's on fire.
Is it really?
You are like blistering, my friend.
It does actually look like I have a sunburn now.
It looks like you're the bad guys in Iron Man 3, where there's just fire coming out.
Okay, this is
You're
my question.
about to explode.
This is my question about that. If you don't explode, and like they fix the extremist virus or whatever, do you get fire powers and get to like fly?
I'm assuming you do. I
Yeah,
think
like,
you just become the Human Torch.
Right.
That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I need to eat more chicken wings until this happens. I'm willing to take that risk.
Okay.
Or it might explode and kill you all. Either way, I'm
Johnny Storm.
either way, it's going to be awesome, or it's going to be I'm sorry.
It's going to be spectacular either way, is what we're saying.
Yeah. All right, so nonetheless, welcome to Nacho Average Podcast, the podcast where we talk about nachos and nacho-related products.
Nacho products and nachos.
I am...
Tostitos, I think, are the best.
A fun fact, Taco Bell, they have a toasted wrapped nachos now.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
I want to try it.
Even though it's like
the
everything you
same
talk about, it's the same
ingredients.
5 ingredients, just put together in a different configuration.
Yeah, it's like imagine like if a pizza company tried to do that. It's like, here's a pizza, it's pepperonis and mushrooms and bread. But this one's
a giant pepperoni with little breadsticks and mushrooms on it.
this one is the mushroom supreme. It's got mushrooms and it's on bread and there's some pepperoni on it. It's like
The Doritos taco is the greatest thing. Taco Bell takes chances. I love them. They're like Megan Ellison. They take chances with their food.
I think that's giving. Really, are they though? Because like we just said, they have three ingredients.
They have
That's
5
true.
ingredients. They're taking chances within those 5 ingredients. They've added a new one, which is Doritos.
It's like, yeah. Would you like?
They have a waffle taco as well.
They do?
Yeah, they have a waffle
they have
taco.
breakfast now.
What? Where have I been?
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk about movies.
Yeah. So, all right. So this is the end of Nacho Average Podcast.
A
And
mini
yeah,
podcast.
welcome back to the Swift Film Show, where we talk about movies. And this week we decided to not talk about 47 Ronin, which
Because
was
it's looking to be the biggest bomb of the entire year.
Yeah.
10 million for a movie that was
20 million something.
wait,
200 million.
It cost
that
200
cost
million.
200 million.
Yeah.
And it made like
10.
10.
It makes Lone Ranger look like a success.
Okay, I just want to say though, we were all kind of excited for this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I do want to see Keanu Reeves as a samurai
Eventually
in
I
like
am,
Middle Earth.
but I just know I'm going to come out of this movie so disappointed
angry.
and dejected and angry. And, it's a better podcast when we're positive, I feel, I feel better about myself and my place in society when
I feel like it's a better podcast when we argue, but yeah, which we're gonna get to.
You just thrive on chaos, that's why.
We're gonna do that.
Yeah, because so nonetheless, this is the end of the year show. After this show, we're gonna go on a 1-month hiatus because nothing comes out in January.
As we learned last year when we were just like running on fumes for an entire month.
Yeah, when we just kind of hung out. Nonetheless, all right. So how this is gonna work? We're gonna go do our worst movies, our dishonorable mentions, our honorable mentions, and then our favorite movies. So, John starts off. What's one of your least favorite movies of the year?
Oh, Jesus. There are so many bad movies this year. Honestly, can I just say that this was the year of disappointing movies? There were a lot of movies this year that I thought were going to be really good, and they just weren't. And so my first movie is one of those. It's Elysium. This is a movie that looked like it had everything going for it. It had a huge effects budget. It had a Paul Blomkamp, who's just a director I loved when he did District 9. And it looked like it was, right in his wheelhouse. It was a futuristic movie that was making commentary on society with cool special effects and great action scenes. I was so stoked going into this movie. Man, what a disappointment. Because it did basically everything wrong it could have done wrong. The action sequences were poorly shot and shaky. The effects, while beautiful, didn't amount to much. It was just like realistic walking robots. Okay, yay. Like the technology wasn't really that cool. And the script was just a complete mess. The movie like dragged in places. It had really weird pacing. The acting was like, Jodie Foster had such weird overacting in this role as the head of She was the Department of Defense for the like rich people
Space Station
commune satellite. It's basically Gulch in space for these rich people, and the political commentary was so ham-fisted that it was just impossible to really like take this movie seriously. And the ending where like they rewrite the like code for Elysium in like 3 keystrokes to allow everyone on Earth to get medical treatment. And it's like if they had enough supplies to give everyone on Earth medical treatment, why weren't they doing that? Or are they just dicks? Is that the message I'm supposed to take from this? That rich people are dicks because? So yeah, it was a terrible movie. But not as bad as some of the other movies I had on this list. The other one I really didn't like was The Butler.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
you hated that.
And the thing with The Butler is it had some good things going for it. The performances were great. The writing was frequently pretty good in terms of dialogue. And it had a really compelling premise, which was the idea of a father and a son with very different ideas about race relations in the U.S. and very different politics, navigating the sort of tumultuous mid-century, racial landscape and the civil rights movement.
But John, all that sounds great. What did this movie end for you?
Everything it had going for it, it squandered it. Like there was. The main story was about a father and son learning to understand each other and learning to understand each other's politics in the civil rights movement. That formed about 40 minutes of this almost 2-hour movie.
That sounds great, but can we add a side story, preferably starring a giant talk show host?
Yes, we can, because Oprah is in this movie, and like Oprah is like the film equivalent of like a supermassive black hole in that she just alters the trajectory of everything that comes near her. So they added a completely useless and pointless side story about her having an affair that goes nowhere and adds nothing to the movie, just to give her more screen time, it felt like. So this movie was lazy. It didn't take chances where it should. If it had just tried a little bit, it could have been something great. But it just went the path of least resistance for every point where it could have made a critical, it could have taken a critical diversion and become a great movie. It chose the path of least resistance and rode that straight to crap. So it was just really not a good movie. And it is still being talked about in the same breath as much better movies.
Like 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah, 12 Years a Slave, a much better movie about race relations in America.
12 Years a Slave embarrasses The Butler, I think.
Well, and it's not even just 12 Years a Slave. When you compare it to all the other sort of critical darlings that it's mentioned in the same breath of, Dallas Buyers Club,
American Hustle,
even American Hustle, Wolf of Wall Street, it's just not in the same class as those movies. But because on paper it has everything going for it, it's still being talked about as a critical darling. So that's why it makes it onto my worst list. But even that, as bad as that is, it's not as bad as the worst movie on our list,
which is
After Earth, which may be the worst movie of all time because it's barely even a movie. Everything it possibly could do to become some semblance of a movie. I don't know. Did this movie have a script? I'm not sure.
The script was Will Smith teaching his son a lesson about life.
Yeah.
What was that lesson?
In both real life and Will Smith wanting us to love Jaden Smith.
Is that the lesson he's trying to teach his son?
That
Will Smith wants the world to love his son?
I feel that like Jaden's this could have been like if they had taken like Will Smith's home movies of Jaden Smith trying to put on a play and they gave that like a $150 million effects budget, you would have ended up with After Earth because it is that crappy. But
no, I think that would be better than After Earth.
Yeah,
I would watch that.
like Jaden Smith's school play with $150 billion.
I would watch that because I don't think like the school teacher would cast Jaden Smith as the lead.
No. I don't think so. I mean, to be fair, Jaden Smith wasn't the problem. Will Smith was the problem because his character was so like.
Cypher Rage?
Yeah, well, that's the one
best
thing.
Name ever.
It did give us the Cypher Rage Memorial Award for bad movie names for which we will be eternally grateful. But other than that,
What is the statue for the Cypher Rage Memorial? I feel like it's like a scriptwriter like leaning over his desk and just crossing things out.
Yeah, it's
Or like thumbing through the thesaurus.
yeah,
Oh
it's
my
like Orson Welles just with his hand over his face, like
And this story was cooked up by Will Smith too.
and I believe it because it has all the earmarks of something Will Smith would write post Millennium. Millennium is perfect, but everything he's done after that.
Well, I don't know,
say.
man. He kind of had to rewrite Men in Black 3, and Men in Black 3 is pretty okay.
That's true. Anyway, so those are my worst movies of the year.
So After Earth is the
The worst movie of the year and possibly the worst movie of all time.
Yeah, that's pretty yeah, that's pretty accurate, man. All right, Husain, what do you got for me?
My third least favorite movie is Oblivion, which was for me a 2-hour bore. Oblivion is kind of like watching a black hole. Like Oprah is the black hole for The Butler. For me, watching Oblivion, I don't remember those 2 hours of my life. I'm not sure if I'll ever return to those 2 hours.
You could use this movie as an opposite or as a substitute for anesthesia.
Yeah, you know what I think my mind has done? I think my mind has substituted Wall-E for those 2 hours. I think that's all I remember.
Anywhere Tom Cruise is, you just see a little square robot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just it's a bore. It's boring. It's slow. It tries to like combine all these different sci-fi movies and smash them into one script.
Now this is what I call Sci-Fi 7.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just it looks beautiful, but it's just
I think this is a movie that we were too kind to in our because we
terrible.
were like lukewarm on this movie. With the benefit of hindsight,
I think lukewarm's even too nice. I think we were cooling towards this movie. Like
we didn't like this movie, but
we were a week old leftovers. To this movie.
But we didn't really pan it because
it might have been because it was beginning of blockbuster
I
season.
think
We were
that's why.
optimistic
I
and
think
like
that's
yeah.
why, and we just suffered through fucking January.
Was After Earth before or after Oblivion?
After. And then we saw.
Oh man, that was like 2 crap like shoots in a row, wasn't it?
Right. And then that pretty much put us off sci-fi for the rest of the year.
It's like because then Elysium came. Okay,
The sci-fi movies, original sci-fi movies, everyone was excited for turned out to be shit. Except
there's
for one.
Oblivion,
Except for one.
Elysium.
And then After Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're all bad. It was a bad year for sci-fi.
This was a bad year for sci-fi.
Except for one, which I'll mention later in our best.
Go ahead.
That's the best. But yeah, so Oblivion is a bore. Don't watch it unless you're like have a hard on for Tom Cruise. I don't know, whatever.
Some people do.
That's true.
You're a Scientologist.
Yeah, my second worst is movie 43.
I liked that one. I thought it was funny.
I know it's
Just what is it like to be wrong, Donovan?
yeah.
Okay.
It is. It tries to be funny, but it's not funny. It's I can't.
I think it's more crude than funny.
Yeah, it's crude. It's boring. The best way I can say how bad this is it's so bad the actors refused to promote it, and it's like one of the only movies in history to have a 1 star on Netflix. That's how bad it is. That's
it
all,
really?
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I don't need to say anything else. That's why it's bad.
That's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because normally
I
on
think
those
even
user,
The Room has like a 2-star rating.
Damn.
because like on those user things, most people either go 5 stars or 1 star, and some people like it. But if everyone goes 1 star, that's a rare thing. That's a beautiful thing it's a beautiful hot mess.
It's like seeing like a full rainbow.
Yeah, and
Like
I never want to see Hugh Jackman with testicles on his neck ever again.
So you don't want you're hoping there are no testicles on his neck in the
I don't know.
Wolverine movie?
Nope.
Okay.
That might be a hard promise to make. Just saying.
Just saying it might happen
Days
again.
of future
Yeah.
past. I don't know.
Time travel's involved. It might happen.
Weird things could happen.
Okay.
My worst movie is the one that pissed me off more than anything in the world.
Can I just say I'm really excited for you to do this segment because you're usually a really kind-hearted person and it's really funny when you get pissed off and angry
Yeah.
about something.
Yeah.
So I'm going to listen with bated breath. Go ahead.
So Star Trek Into Darkness is the movie I liked at first. And then I started thinking about it, and thinking about it, and then the hate started boiling up inside me. Because I realized that in this movie, they reveal Khan. But no one knows who Khan is. So...
Except the audience.
Except the audience. But the characters are like, okay, we don't care. What you're Khan, whatever,
Khan,
that's
okay.
your name. But the reveal is like, I am Khan.
And then they have to actually go find old Spock and be like, what's the deal with this Khan guy?
They Google him.
Yeah, they basically go, and then old Spock is like, oh shit, Khan.
It's so obvious that J.J. Abrams and his crew of writers were just wanting to put the reveal of Khan in there to give fan service, that they forgot that no one cares who Khan is. So they went back and they wrote a scene to explain who Khan is because, oh my god.
You text messaged me like 3 weeks after this, like, that's the stupidest reveal I've ever heard. I hate this movie.
This is like gotta be like the longest like slow boil on hatred too. Because it was like a good month before you decided you hated this movie.
Yeah, it's like we came out of a movie and like he came up to us like, "Hey guys, I just got to say something. I hate Star Trek."
Yeah, right. And it was like, okay, what brought that on? And it's just
Okay.
like it was like it's been like incubating for like a month.
It was like those earworms in the Wrath of Khan. It just slowly burrowed its hatred into Husain's brain.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I don't think this movie was that bad, but I respect Husain. And honestly, it's another example of just a disappointing year in sci-fi.
Yeah, it's just...
It really was. I didn't realize how disappointing this year was.
I would watch this again, but I'd end it in the last... I'd just stop halfway through, I think.
You wouldn't even get to...
With the Khan reveal?
Yeah,
That
no,
would've made
right
more
before
sense.
there, I would just stop watching. I just watch to see Chris Penn do his fun thing as Captain Kirk, because I like him as Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
And then I just stop, and then I pray that Star Trek 3 is good.
Well, J.J. Abrams isn't involved,
So maybe he'll be good. Maybe they'll get a new writer.
I don't think so. I think he's what makes those movies
I
good.
think that's a death knell for this series because
they deserve it now.
There's never been a good Star Trek movie before this besides Wrath of Khan. You know?
You didn't like the first one?
No.
Wow.
I mean, it's okay. It's not as bad as like the crap like First Contact, but
Wow, I love First Contact, man.
Oh man.
You have Worf fucking cutting up Borg with a sword. What's not to love?
I don't know. It's just well, let's not get into this right here. Let's go into dishonorable mentions.
No, I got to do mine.
Oh, yeah.
Screw Into Darkness, basically. Is my summation of the worst movies of the year is Star Trek Into Darkness can go screw itself.
Okay. How dare you, sir? How dare you? I like Angry Husain. We need to. Can we just like buy him a copy of Into Darkness?
Right, we'll just show it to him before every podcast.
All right. So my worst movies. I'm not sure if this is my least favorite movie. I definitely dislike this one a lot. Is The Counselor? You guys were all into this movie,
We weren't all into this movie.
You guys were kind of.
I was lukewarm, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again in 2 years when I can think about it. Yeah.
I was like lukewarm on it. I don't think it works. It had some of the vignettes are pretty cool, but overall it doesn't really add up to much.
The only thing that was a saving grace of this movie was Javier Bardem's fucking hair.
Yeah.
It was the only thing that was interesting.
What about
Everything else
Cameron
is so
Diaz,
boring.
Cameron Diaz humping the car? Like
Yeah.
a starfish?
That was weird.
Like a sucker fish down the window. Like honestly, the movie's worth it just for that line.
And to see Javier Bardem's reaction to that. Like, what? I had to sell that car.
No, you can YouTube that clip.
Yeah, honestly,
really funny.
I think if you were just to have that clip like outside of context on YouTube, that you could watch that instead of watching The Counselor, and you'll probably get more enjoyment out of it.
That was okay. Yeah. Besides that scene, this movie sucked. It was just so boring. It was
boring.
Lame. All right.
Even I'll say that it was boring.
Okay.
It was very much the case of it was, Cormac McCarthy just doesn't understand how to write for film.
Yeah. All right. So my next least favorite movie is probably the other movie besides 47 Ronin, which is the worst movie of the year, which is Lone Ranger.
Oh, Jesus.
Lone Ranger is so bad because of a couple things. One, they've had to rewrite that fucking movie like 4 times.
And it shows.
It's like
5 different movies glommed together.
I would have really liked to see the werewolf cut. because that probably would have been a more
would have made sense.
That probably would have made more sense and would have been more fun than what the movie we got.
It would have explained them.
It would have explained a lot.
Yeah.
It's a movie that feels like it needs like one more polish rewrite.
No, it's a movie that needs to just, they needed to have made a clean break with everything they've written and just rewrite it from scratch.
It was a movie that needed to be scrapped.
Yeah, like a page one rewrite.
Well, because what happened was it went through so many revisions that it was like 5 different movies crammed together in one script.
And okay, this is the biggest issue that I have with this fucking movie. Johnny Depp. I cannot stand him. He has just disappeared from the actor that we used to have in movies. I used to be on board with Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, I would be like, yeah, I'll defend that guy. But ever since he started putting on fake mustaches and dreadlocks and a pirate hat, the Johnny Depp we know and love has disappeared, and he's just turned into this fucking monster that will just put out crap for Disney.
Yeah.
And Jerry Bruckheimer.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
What the fuck happened to you, man?
And will be like a racist Indian caricature.
Yeah, and have a dead bird on his head. That's not really dead, or is dead. I don't know. His spirit animal. Whatever, dude. I don't care. You know what you need to go back to doing? Real movies. Go back and do real movies.
He's got one coming in 2014.
Like, Jack White is a better quirky actor than you are now. And he's a musician. Again, I love the White Stripes, but dude, seriously? Like, people are stepping up onto your territory that you used to own.
We need like an Edward Scissorhands too.
It'll probably go to Jack White. Because he's probably better than him now at this point.
Yeah.
Like, Johnny Depp would be like, oh, but can I wear a funny beard? No. No, then I'm going to pull out of this movie unless you put my friends in it. No, shut up. He is the worst. He is like John said, he is a black hole that will just consume everything. And he's part of the problem in movies right now. Stop it, Johnny Depp. Stop it. Okay.
All right. So, calm down. I'll give you a couple.
No,
minutes
I got
to breathe.
one more, and it's my worst movie of the year.
I know. You don't want to go right from that into the next movie. Your head will explode.
It's already exploded once.
Right.
And I kind of hate both of you right now too, because you both defended this movie.
Which movie is this?
Oz the Great and Powerful.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
I don't understand how you two could defend this movie.
Here's the thing. I don't understand how you can summon this much emotion for this movie. Because it wasn't a good movie. It was not a good movie.
But it wasn't terrible.
It was so bland. Like, how can you hate it this much?
Do you remember the opening sequence when he got to Oz?
Yeah.
That just killed it.
It just
killed you right
You were
there.
done.
10 minutes into this movie, I was clocked out. You know why? Because I don't need a fucking Disney theme ride in my movie in 2D when clearly this was your 3D payoff.
Uh-huh.
It was just bad. It was just so offensively visually bad. Like, okay, granted, the writing may have been good. I don't remember.
No,
You'll have to tell
it
me.
wasn't.
It wasn't. But the visuals were so terrible. It hurt to look at.
Yeah.
Like, it gave my eyes diabetes. It gave me retina diabetes.
We didn't see this in 3D, did we?
We did not.
And it still
deeply, deeply offended me.
Yeah.
My eyes have diabetes, John. And gout. It was so rich and sugary. My eyes have diabetes and gout.
Okay. Yeah.
Fucking hate this movie.
All right. I like I'm saying, I just don't see. I mean, you have
to put a needle with insulin into my eyes.
Granted, you have a weak, a deep, like almost bottomless well of hatred that you can draw from that me and Husain just can't access.
Yeah,
but
like,
I still don't understand because it was not a good movie. But
what do I have to do to explain to you why this movie is so bad?
I'm going to back off on this now because you're turning dangerously red.
All right, so let me take a minute. Okay, so for our dishonorable mentions, these were movies that were bad, more of disappointments. It was not, Your Father and I Aren't Angry at You, we're just deeply disappointed.
Yeah. There was a lot, and I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of movies that are just sort of bland and disappointing each year.
Right.
But these are the ones that are, just bad movies.
Right. So, John, what was your dishonorable mention?
Dishonorable mention, gee. I didn't really have one, honestly, because we've covered most of the shit that I did.
Right.
You had some, I think.
I had one, and Husain's gonna fight me on this.
Yeah, because I really like this movie.
I think you're fucking wrong.
I think it actually might have morphed, like Into Darkness has morphed into this hatred. I think it's morphed into my favorite superhero movie of the year. I think. I'm not sure. I have to give it another watch.
I wish this was a video podcast so everyone can see my face. Man of Steel.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Why would this be how do you keep defending this movie?
I see it, it makes me smile, and it makes my child happy. Inside child.
See, I don't understand that because this movie had no joy in it.
It was so joyless.
It was the most self-serious, like boring,
self-righteous,
Yeah, I don't understand. It just couldn't, for some reason, it connects with me, and it makes me. I've seen it 6 times now.
Have you?
Why?
How have you seen it 6 times?
What is wrong with you, Husain?
I don't know. It just connected with me. I really like it. All
right. Anyway, so that movie sucks, and Husain is wrong.
I watched the special features a couple nights ago.
Jesus Christ, Husain. You're just digging yourself deep.
I like it. Man of Steel lovers, I know you're out there. You are with me.
I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Our friendship is over. 4 years gone, Husain.
I just don't understand. I'm flabbergasted. I can understand being like, oh, it wasn't that bad, but like actively liking this movie?
Yeah, it was so joyless.
I don't know. I can't explain it. I just like it.
There was not a movie.
I can't even listen to the soundtrack because I hate this movie so much.
There was not a movie this year that was more devoid of joy than
The Counselor had more joy in this movie.
There was more genuine emotion and feeling and goodwill in The Counselor. A movie where a man's head is cut off by a winch. You know. Then I would I'd rather watch a man slowly have his head cut off by a winch than suffer through 1 minute of
see Superman break Zod's neck in a giant laser eye fight.
Not even that, just Superman meandering around doing nothing for 2/3 of the movie's runtime.
I can't explain it.
You're dead to me.
Anyway, all right. So that's our dishonorable mention.
All right, and for our honorable mention, so now we're gonna lighten the mood because
there's a ton of honorable mentions.
Yeah, there was a lot of good this year, but the thing is there were a lot of good movies this year, but so many of them just didn't compare to the very upper echelons of it. There was a wide breadth of talent between the really best movies of the year, which were just amazing, and just
good to great, but not amazing.
Yeah. So. One of the movies early in the year, we talked about this about the mid-year podcast, and I think I'm going to bring it up again, is Warm Bodies.
Yeah.
Just a fun film.
The best zombie thing in years.
A lot of heart. One of the better
best rom-coms.
Yeah, probably the best rom-com this year, honestly. Just a lot of heart, and probably criminally overlooked because it was released in February when nothing is happening, and it was a zombie movie, which people are getting tired of.
Played out.
But it's a zombie movie that it managed a double miracle in that it did something new with rom-coms and new with zombie movies.
And it had something to say.
Yeah.
And so it kind of hit all of our sweet spots with zombie movies.
And in a movie where in a movie season where every movie was about sort of society crumbling and falling apart and people eating each other, it said something that the zombie movie was this year's only real zombie movie was the one to say, you know what? No, we can rebuild.
Yeah, it was like the anti-zombie movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's still a movie that I think is worth going and seeing, and we talked it up this year. I'm going to mention it again.
Yeah, I think it should be on demand by now.
Oh,
yeah,
it's undoubtedly on demand by now.
It's one of the most popular on demand too. So good job, Warm Bodies.
Yeah,
everyone listen to us.
Right.
Because again, we're never wrong except you saying about Man of Steel.
Yeah. You about Oz, but whatever.
You don't have to put insulin shots into your eyes, John.
Yeah.
All right, and our other one was... Didn't we have other honorable mentions?
The World's End.
The World's End. The last of the 3-flavor Cornetto trilogy.
Yeah.
Not as good, honestly, as Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead. But a solid film, lots of fun.
And something that it really kept, like, and for a trilogy to finish out,
Felt like
and to still really be kind of like hits across the board.
Mhm,
Again,
mhm.
The World's End wasn't as good as the other two, but still, if it was on its
Quite
own,
good, yeah.
it would be really good.
Yeah, and a standout, honestly, among summer comedies.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of bad comedy.
It was
this
a really
year.
joyless summer too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the stuff that tried to be comedic, except for This Is the End, which is another honorable mention, because it was really funny. Most of the comedies this year just completely missed the mark.
Yeah.
It has a lot of, for a comedy movie, it has a lot of thematic depth too. There's a lot about addiction in the movie and
Yeah.
about friendships and how those change over time.
How you really can't go home again.
Yeah, there's a lot in that movie. It's just, I look forward to watching it multiple times.
Yeah, it's really looking forward to that box set.
Yeah, seriously, that is on my box set to buy list when it hits.
It's already out.
It is?
Target has some. I don't know if they're like the big.
I want the official box
edition.
set with like the special edition like features and like scratch and sniff decals and like a like Nick Frost like 3/4 miniature statuette made of pewter. Like that's what I want.
Wait, is it going to be Nick Frost? Which Nick Frost is it going to be? Nick, because I want Nick Frost with like the bar stool punching like gloves.
Yeah, I want that one. I want that one.
That's what I want. Yeah,
I want either that one or Nick Frost with a shotgun from Hot Fuzz.
Uh-huh.
By the way, is there a Bond in each of the trilogy?
What?
Is there a Bond actor? Because in World's End, Pierce Brosnan's in it.
Yeah.
And Hot Fuzz, Timothy Dalton's in it.
Oh,
Is there another Bond in the first one? That'd be interesting.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But it's kind of weird that they did that.
That is weird.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
It's a deep movie. You should watch it.
Yeah, but nonetheless,
Again. And again.
The World's End,
All right, and then we also mentioned This Is the End as a
just
honorable mention.
funny as hell.
Super
Yeah.
funny, and like it's so like wonderful to see actors willing to sort of take the piss out of themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're basically playing like caricatures of themselves, and like
Yeah, like the TMZ versions of themselves.
and for all that Hollywood is very like self-obsessed a lot of times and takes itself way too seriously, it felt really nice to see these actors in kind of a knowing self-parody of themselves.
And the premise of the movie it shouldn't work really. A bunch of actors playing themselves in a movie. It shouldn't work, but it really works. It's about friendship. It's fun. It's kind of touching.
In a weird way.
In a weird way.
And it has the Backstreet Boys in it.
Right.
Yeah,
and
the greatest closing sequence all year.
and it ends with a Backstreet Boys reunion. So what's not to like?
They never broke up. It's not a reunion.
Yeah.
They
don't
never
call it a comeback.
Don't
We
call
got
it a
here all
comeback.
along.
Yeah. All right.
There are a bunch of others too. Just real quick, Spectacular Now, Spring Breakers, You're Next, Francis Ha. So many.
Yeah. We really don't want to get into all of them. It was a good year for film. Let's just put it that way.
And it gets better because now these are our top movies of the year.
Le crime of la crop. Oui, oui.
I'm still mad at you. Don't talk to me.
Ratatouille.
John, what were your favorite movies of the year?
Frozen.
Frozen. We're not.
That's my honorable mention, everyone. Go see Frozen. It's
Yeah.
in theaters now.
And it looks like you did because it's the best grossing Disney cartoon since Lion King.
Yeah.
All right, so my best for the year starts off with a movie that, for everything that The Butler does wrong in being a movie about race relations, being incredibly ham-fisted, being unfocused, being lazy, being kind of insulting to the audience's intelligence and their capacity to empathize, with people. 12 Years a Slave does everything right. This is really, if you want to make a movie about slavery, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
Because this is a movie that doesn't pull any punches. It respects its audience intelligence. It respects their ability to look at really sort of uncomfortable sequences and not look away. And that sort of unflinching dedication to showing the truth of this institution is great. It has probably one of the best performances this year. Supporting actor Michael Fassbender as this sort of crazed slave owner. I felt the main character honestly was a little bit overacted, but it was clear that that was what they were going for. Just a great all around film, and it deserves everything the good that's being said about it. 12 Years a Slave. The other one that I really liked, and this is one I feel is going to be probably overlooked at the Oscars because it came so early in the year, which is just not a good thing when you're dealing with Oscar voters who are just, have the attention spans of a gnat. It seems like, which is why you notice the last 2 weeks of the year, they loaded it up with like all of their Oscar bait movies came in the last 2 weeks of the year. That's why. This movie came, I think, early February. So, which is like, not only is it just a dead zone for movies in general, it's like you don't put something that early in the year. But that's what I'm talking about, of course, is Place Behind the Pines.
Yeah, that was like way early in the year.
Way early in the year. Kind of a sleeper hit. Had a limited release, but just phenomenal. Like, probably the best acting I've seen in a movie in just years. Just Bradley Cooper in this is amazing. It is just an incredibly human, incredibly true to life, incredibly just deep performance.
That one scene where he's lying, and he's lying, is like, I think, one of the highlights of acting for me this year.
Yeah, there's a scene where he's basically talking to his therapist about shooting this guy, and it's so great because it's like there's this uncomfortableness to it because he's like you can tell he really wants to sort of lay everything out there, but he knows he shouldn't, so he's holding things back, and like everything just sort of shows on his face, and it's such a perfect example of just this naturalistic mode of acting that is really hard to do. And other than that, it's just incredibly well shot. It's a beautiful movie. It's
epic.
It's epic. For a movie that's basically about family relations, it's an epic. It follows 3 generations. The only real downside to it, I think the last act was not quite as good as the preceding 2, but that was just because the preceding 2 were so good.
And have amazing performances in both of them, too.
Yeah, so that one definitely gets on my list, even if it's not going to get on the Oscars list. The best movie of the year, though, by far, Pain and Gain by Michael Bay. And people are going to get on me about this. Critics hated this movie, but I think one of the reasons they hated it was Michael Bay. If this is a movie that had been made by sort of an unknown indie actor, or an indie director, or like a new director or something like that, if they had made a movie like this, it would have been hailed as one of the most like funny and incisive social commentaries in years. And in a way, the fact that Michael Bay made this movie makes it an even deeper social commentary than it was. Because this is a very trickily subversive film where it's basically taking a hard look at the American dream. And it's the sort of movie that you would expect, because it's Michael Bay, to go one way, and it goes in a completely opposite direction. Next to probably Wolf of Wall Street, this is the best criticism of capitalism to come in a year where every movie was a criticism of capitalism.
Yeah.
And besides that, it's so entertaining.
It's really funny. One of the best performances from The Rock, like ever.
Yeah,
ever.
Just so funny. And for a movie to be so smart and so funny at the same time, and be ignored by critics the way this one has, it feels bad. And I also feel bad because now Michael Bay has to go back and do Transformers. When he's basically made a movie, like I think about this movie as sort of Michael Bay's Natural Born Killers. Like, it's that good of a, like, if Oliver Stone had made this movie, it would have won an Oscar, basically, is how I feel.
Husain?
My third best is going to be the Coen Brothers' new movie, Inside Llewyn Davis.
Yeah.
When I first saw this movie, I didn't know what to think. I knew it was good, but I had to process it. Over the next couple of days, it just started gnawing on me and chewing on me, and I just...
And then you hated the con reveal?
No. I started loving it.
Llewyn Davis's con.
No, not again.
Goddamn you, Abrams! But I just started loving it, and I couldn't get it out of my head. It's one of the movies that has stuck with me since I've seen it more most of the movies of the year.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I came out of the theater not really knowing what to think about this, but as I like revisited in my head, I've been listening to the soundtrack pretty much nonstop since I saw it. The soundtrack is so good, but it really, like, the more you think about it, the more you see the sort of subtle things that the Coen brothers were doing in this movie that just make it a real pleasure. And
that makes me mad. I was really sick for it. What a movie to miss.
You would have loved it.
You would have loved this movie, I think, and you should probably see it. Like,
yeah, I went to see it yesterday, but I got the times wrong. I'm still kind of sick.
Yeah, it's really relatable too, because it's about in like an artist life, like a writer or an artist or an actor.
Well, it's about that point in every sort of artist's life where you start thinking, maybe I should give this up.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not as good as I really think I am. And that is what it's about, basically.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly just cool movie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, they're great. Oscar Isaac, this is like his career defining. This is his big movie that I hope he gets an Oscar nom. I hope he is able to continue, because he's really good in this. Because he has to play this asshole that also has to be kind of likable, because otherwise the movie doesn't work, and he just nails it. And everyone else in the movie nails it. The soundtrack is, I don't want to say haunting, but sticks with you.
It's one of the best. I mean, we all saw this when it came out. When I think NPR had the full soundtrack for a couple weeks, it was easily one of the best pieces. It was one of the best albums from a movie for a long time, probably since "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou."
Yeah, well, I could see it following a similar trajectory. So "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" was the other soundtrack that they worked with T. Brown Burnett on. "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" was the only soundtrack I think to ever go #1 on like the Billboard Top 100. This movie, honestly, I almost think the soundtrack to this movie is better.
Yeah,
wow,
it is.
okay.
Yeah, it's just incredible. It's like a lot of like covers of old folk songs. Oscar Isaac actually sings on some of these tracks.
Yeah,
he's good.
Yeah.
So it's just a great soundtrack and a great film.
Yeah, it's spectacular.
All right, number 2.
Number 2 is going to be Spike Jonze's Her. This movie, the concept is going to turn a lot of people off, but they're dumb if they count it out. It's a guy. It takes place in the near future, where a guy, Joaquin Phoenix, falls in love with his operating system, played by Scarlett Johansson.
So basically, he falls in love with Siri.
Yeah, it's just this how really gets like our relationship with at its core. It gets like our relationship with technology and how like our capacity to love each other and our like because humanity's we're all losing our connections to each other. A lot of our the way we connect is online or through these devices, and this movie just gets that, and it's the perfect summation of how we live with each other through these devices. And Joaquin Phoenix is amazing. Amy Adams is Amy Adams. It's crazy to watch American Hustle Amy Adams and then see her Amy Adams and see that they're the same. There's the same actress doing two completely different things. Same with Joaquin Phoenix. As in The Master, he's a terrifying guy, and in here he's like the most lovable, cute thing, like cuddly little person. And it's crazy, and the technology in this movie is really cool. It's relatable, it's touching, it's fantastic.
All right, and your best movie?
My best movie is The Wolf of Wall Street. It's very similar to Pain and Gain, so everything John said about that in terms of theme and capitalism and the perverted American dream
and being
counts
funny
for this. Yeah, it's hilarious. It's 3 hours, but it's so hilarious that it doesn't even monitor on you. Everything is.
It's funny too because Pain and Gain is also a longer movie.
Yeah.
that feels really short because it just keeps it moving so well.
Yeah, and everything in this movie is like next level. Leonardo DiCaprio does his best work because sometimes he kind of feels like he's a movie star acting once in a while.
Yeah.
Here he's like completely lost.
Blood Diamond.
He does some of the best physical comedy in a movie in a while. Jonah Hill is also fantastic. Everyone in this movie is great. Matthew McConaughey is like in here for 5 minutes, but he does more good work than he has in other movies this year, except for Dallas Buyers Club, of course.
Okay. Oof.
But
You're gonna get some mad people on that one.
Yeah, but he's really, really good. Martin Scorsese. American Hustle also came out this year, and American Hustle kind of feels like a con job of a Martin Scorsese movie. watching Wolf of Wall Street makes you realize how much of a con job American Hustle is. Like, American Hustle's good, but watching
But
Wolf
it's
of
no
Wall
Wolf of
Street,
Wall Street,
yeah,
okay.
it just makes you
And
feel
no
like,
painting
oh,
game.
it's amazing. This is the best movie of the year, hands down. It's basically, the best way to sum it up is it's Goodfellas with Wall Street.
So this is another like affirmation of why Scorsese is one of the best.
He's 71 years old and he has more energy and vitality than directors half his age. It's crazy. He's a master.
Okay. All right. So my movies. My first movie is a sports movie, and I don't think either of you guys saw this movie.
No.
You did.
I did.
You did.
I really liked it.
Yeah. Rush. It's about F1 racers in the 70s and the weird, crazy, intense world they live in, and it has one of the best supporting actor performances I've ever seen from a guy I never have heard of before in my life. And this movie basically has burned his name into the depths of my mind. Daniel Bruhl as Niki Lauda, as just like this really just data-driven, like cutthroat sort of competitor against Chris Hemsworth, just kind of, you know, like playboy F1 car racer. It just makes for this amazing, like, best frenemy dynamic within a movie.
Clash of personalities.
Yeah, clash of personalities, best frenemies, whatever you want to call it. It's just so, like, the on-screen chemistry is so good, and Niki Lauda, he at least deserves an Oscar nom for this. I don't think he'll get it, but he definitely deserves it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is weird because this is a movie that people were talking about for the Oscars. This was like in the pre-Oscar buzz,
Yeah.
but it came out really early. It came out in like August.
Yeah, it did. I think it's good. It runs into the same problem that Place Behind the Pines did. It just came out.
The timing was all wrong.
But the problem is, like, if it had come out like later in the season, it would have.
No one would have watched it.
It would have been the problem with this year is it's so deep and there are so many
Yeah.
good movies that it's hard to get a good movie noticed.
And this is the thing too, is that it's who's the director? It's
Ron Howard.
It's a Ron Howard movie.
Who's an
Yeah.
Oscar darling?
Yeah.
But yeah, the talent bench was that good this year that it's
That Ron Howard got like washed over.
yeah, it's hard, but it's hard to have a sports movie like that and run it up against Wolf of Wall Street or American Hustle. And
You know, also it's not an American sport either.
Right.
It's about British people. It's
Right.
about a British guy and a German guy.
yeah,
So
it-
it's just not.
it's about F1 racing, which is just not something a lot of Americans watch.
Right.
If it had been like a football movie, it would have,
Oh, if it was a NASCAR movie.
Oh,
my God. Oh my God, if it was a NASCAR movie.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have watched it then. Just saying.
Because,
Yeah.
because NASCAR is terrible.
Right. Left turn.
I think my favorite thing about Rush is it's so much fun to watch their rivalry.
It just, like, every time they're on screen together, and, like, this is the thing, it's that, you know, like people say, it's like, oh, like, your rival is always gonna know you better than your best friend, or your significant other is gonna know you. And that comes through so much in this movie,
Yeah.
because, like, they just got it. It's like, I know why you're racing, I know why you do what you do. And just, like, when Niki Lauda gets hurt, the Chris Hemsworth character, like, defends him. It's like, no, he beats up that reporter for basically being an asshole. And, like, because it's like, oh, well, it's like, you're ugly now. Your wife is going to leave you. And he kicks the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And, it's just that deep level of respect, and yet, like, that really intense hatred all at the same time,
Right.
that makes, like, a great rivalry.
Yeah.
All right, and my next movie is going to be Pacific Rim.
Ah.
They hit a giant squid monster with an oil tanker as a baseball bat. That's really all I need to say. It's just
They also stabbed a pterodactyl monster with a sword that they didn't mention they had a sword up until that point. And then they had a sword and you're like, of course they have a sword.
why wouldn't it have a sword? It was just a silly action movie.
But so much fun.
It was so much fun.
and everything that there were a lot of action movies this summer that fell flat. Everything they failed to do is what
Pacific Rim got
had,
right.
Yeah, had in spades.
And the thing is that there was so much writing against Pacific. And, like, the thing is, like, if Superman took half of the lightheartedness and half of the entertainment value that Pacific Rim had, a Man of Steel would have been 1,000 times better.
Right.
And it would have blown people away. But the fact that Pacific Rim is a brand new intellectual property, didn't really have any major stars, and was a Guillermo del Toro film that
Didn't get a super amount of like promotion ahead of time either.
yeah, like the kind of like the nerd community, like
It got a lot
the
of-
Comic-Con crowd heard of it.
It got a lot of promotion to the Comic-Con crowd, but it didn't really get a very wide push among like more common people.
Right, yeah, and it needs to be defended. I'm more than elated that they're getting a sequel or a prequel or something.
No, not officially. They're working on a script, but Warner Brothers hasn't because the money is the Pacific Rim didn't make a lot of money.
Well, see, here's the thing: Pacific Rim, it didn't have that huge opening week bump that most people wanted,
Right.
Or domestic bump.
But it was huge overseas, and it was huge in all of the markets that Hollywood traditionally struggles to get into. The China market, which is a really big market, Taiwan, Japan. And it did really, really well overseas, and it did really, really well over time. So it made a lot of money over time, but it didn't have that metric that Hollywood looks at.
Right.
Like, you'd almost like say that this would, like, Pacific Rim would be like a good, like, Moneyball type of pick.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have the metric everyone was paying attention to, but maybe it had the metrics that were more important.
Right. And it just, the fact that it was able to do that and still have like the deck stacked against it was really amazing. And it was just really entertaining.
This was the best blockbuster of the summer.
Yeah.
Like by far. Nothing else was really close. And it's just the sort of movie you walk out of the theater with just a big smile on your face.
Yeah. And my favorite movie this year is Nebraska. This was that black and white indie movie that we talked about
A few weeks back.
5 weeks ago, something like that. I can't remember the last time I saw a movie that was that positive and realistically funny about family.
Yeah.
And it like when I walked out of it, it was like one of those things, like it had to boil down for a minute. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is really what I feel about my family. It's like I love them dearly and deeply, but God, they're just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like they're just so
Yeah.
ridiculous. I just kind of I can't deal with them sometimes.
Yeah. It really felt true to life in a way that, like, the depictions of families in movies often don't.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. Like I said this on that podcast, but it still rings very, very true. Is that it's a very non-cynical look. It's a very
Yes.
not humble, but it's a very it's a very humble look at what family is.
Well, I mean,
And
for
I
all
really
that it's
appreciate it.
Yeah, for all that it's a really
Sincere. It's a very sincere look.
sincere and realistic look at families and the troubles that families often have, and the difficulty you have relating sometimes to your family members. Ultimately, it's a hopeful movie.
Yeah.
It's a movie that says, at the end of the day, even though you're completely different people and you have a hard time, relating to one another, your family and your old friends are the people that you can count on always.
And that's
Yeah.
the thing. That's the thing. What I'm kind of like put off by August Osage County is that it looks like it's a very kind of cynical look at family again. And it's like I understand it's like we need to have those movies too, but we get that theme in family movies or like like the family drama comedies more often than we get like the very sincere look that we got in Nebraska.
Well, I think it's striking too, because you there's a lot of movies. Movies seem like they've just become so negative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that when a movie comes along that can tackle difficult subjects and is not shying away from the darkness necessarily, but is ultimately kind of a hopeful thing, it's really refreshing.
Yeah.
And you don't really realize how negative some other movies have become until you see a movie like Nebraska or honestly Warm Bodies, where you come out of it just sort of feeling affirmed.
And
Happy.
happy.
Yeah, and happy. And it's interesting to contrast that with the way you come out of something that's more
Man of Steel.
serious. Like a more serious movie.
Yeah. Like Counselor, there was no happy ending for anyone in that movie. And
right.
it was a very kind of cynical look at the world.
But but people equate that sort of cynicism with intellectual depth and rigor.
Yeah.
When they don't necessarily need to. ultimately, Nebraska is probably a smarter movie than The Counselor.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though The Counselor is a more serious movie.
And it says way more about the world we live in than The Counselor does too.
Yeah. So it's good to see a movie that can be intellectually honest, deep, say things about the world, but at the same time be kind of uplifting
and super entertaining. It's just, in my mind, the perfect movie I've seen this year. The most perfect movie I've seen.
Yeah.
The big theme with this year's our best movies is all of them were good, but all of them are actually really funny too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They all had a
Yeah.
comedic look.
They were able to be, talk about serious things without taking themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Which is become a real problem, I feel, with the sort of Oscar baity movies. Honestly, that was one of the problems with one of my worst movies of the year,
The Butler.
The Butler, is that it was
serious.
It was fundamentally doing goofy things, like the opening scene where they have they're on a plantation and someone is so over the top, it's almost slapstick, and yet the movie plays it like it's the most serious, dramatic thing that's ever happened in the history of film, and it's like that unearned seriousness in Oscar bait movies has become a real problem, I feel.
Yeah, I'm with you, and it sucks all the life out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the movie's at the very it's entertainment at the very bottom of the the fulfillment of needs. It's entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, make your movie at least entertaining.
Yeah.
And
if it's going to be dramatic, make it entertainingly dramatic. Don't make it over serious and joyless. If it's going to be funny, make it funny. Don't just go for crude humor. Try a little harder.
Yeah. All right. So, anything else you guys want to say before we wrap this up for the year?
I hope 2014 is good.
Yeah, I have hopes for 2014. I don't know if it's going to be as stacked as 2013, honestly.
I think this is going to be a bye year until we get to the mega giant juggernaut of 2015.
I have a feeling that 2015 might be horrible. It's
Really?
just this digging feeling in me that I think every movie is going to suck. I don't know. Maybe because there's too much and I'm terrified that not all of them can be good. I don't know. Because there's no way all of them are good.
I kind of felt that way about this year, and honestly, a lot of the stuff that I thought was going to be good was really disappointing, like Elysium,
Man of Steel.
But honestly, a lot of the big movies this year.
How do you defend it?
I
what part of your brain says that was good? I'm going to watch this 5 times.
6 times.
Oh my god.
Plus special features.
Oh my god.
Jesus Christ.
Plus with the commentary.
Stop talking.
We need to end this right now before.
But 2014.
Yeah.
I look forward to Godzilla. David Fincher is back, my favorite director.
Captain America.
Christopher Nolan, Captain America.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. No. RoboCop.
No.
Okay.
Days of Future Past.
Maybe, I don't know.
Ooh, you're just setting yourself
Guardians
up for
of the Galaxy,
disappointment.
guys. Rocket Raccoon is coming to the big screen.
And Groot.
And Groot. Vin Diesel is Groot.
Vin Diesel is Groot.
Nonetheless, so remember, you can follow us on the Swift Film Show. You can follow us on Twitter at
Swift Film.
Swift Film. Thank you. I'm still sick, if you can't tell.
Rocket
Yeah.
Raccoon.
Facebook at facebook.com/SwiftFilm, SwiftFilm.com for the word, SoundCloud/SwiftFilm for the podcast, where hopefully you're listening to this now, or YouTube,
Where you can also listen to this.
and see us talk about other things. There's gonna be a lot of trailers coming up, so you'll probably see us a lot in January.
We're gonna be on hiatus from the main podcast, but probably we're gonna be doing a lot of Swiftcast. Is what
You
it's
can
looking
be
like.
sure if there's a Guardians trailer, we will talk about it.
I feel like we would have already seen it by now.
No, we won't see it until Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're probably right. And remember, you can follow us on the iTunes library for podcasts there too. So nonetheless,
Rate us 5.
Yeah,
Please.
5.
6. Don't settle.
Make it up. You draw another star on the screen. All right. What are we seeing when we first come back?
Oh, I
I
forgot.
think it's RoboCop, isn't it?
I think it
I
might
think
be.
It might be.
Oh yeah,
We're
starting
starting
the
it right.
year off on a high note.
Death to fake RoboCop.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. So that'll be.
I have a feeling that's gonna be that's already one of my worst movies of the year. I love RoboCop. I love it. I watched all 3 of them again the other day.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
It's RoboCop.
Watch us love this movie. Watch it be
It's just the fucking
best.
standout of the year.
Yeah.
It's this year's Pacific Rim.
Or this year's Pain and Gain, where we thought we were gonna hate Pain and Gain, and we came out being like, "Oh my god, that was so good!"
Oh, do you guys want to see it again? Let's get in line.
Yeah.
All right. Nonetheless, we'll see you in a month, and remember to listen to all the others.
And go catch up on all these great movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still have to see like 4 movies,
Seriously.
like all of them.